So there is this whole like seedy other world to the world of music. You may not be aware that there's like possibility of working adjacent to the music industry in the gear industry.
Yeah, it's something I wasn't aware of until I stumbled into it.
And in this talk, I wanted to invite someone who is not, I hope you don't mind me saying this, is not famous on the internet, you know, other than you are in some like YouTube
Google my name.
videos if you
No,
go
I'm joking.
looking for him. But you are a person who has worked in the music technology industry for probably longer than I had.
21 years.
And there is an entire industry that you can work in where you
Yeah.
can sell gear. You live and talk about gear, a thing that you may be passionate about. And there are also like sectors in that industry. There's
Layers within layers. Yeah.
onion skins. So what do we have? Where does it begin? Sales in a dealership.
Yep.
And then where do you go up from there?
Well, I mean, there's the whole logistical back end of any company. There's going to be a purchasing department, an accounts department, a shipping department, a product specialist in the store. A lot of dealers have like video creation departments,
Yes, they do.
marketing.
Yes.
You know, there's so much. Any kind of structural job within a company exists within the gear industry.
And that's just talking about retailers. So then there's this layer called distributors. What is a distributor?
So distribution, this is, I thought it was worth explaining this because when I do trade shows like this, people ask me, oh, do you sell to the general public? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
So a distributor acts as, lack of a better term, kind of a wing of a brand. Okay. So we import products from brands.
Yeah.
And we sell them to dealers. And we act as a local kind of agent for brands.
Yeah.
So we'll do everything from, you know, product training for the brands, bit of marketing, sales, obviously.
The main thing is that you're because in this instance, like to be clear, it's like brands where they're based in like America or Australia. They don't have a person in the UK who can deal with the UK dealers and basically mainly like sell the products to the dealers. So go around the dealers, right, and say, this is what's new, there's something coming, let's get you prepared for it and sell it into you so that you've got stock when it launches and we'll give you, and then you do like marketing and stuff. It's like the brand sort of effectively paying you to be their local wing, their like rep.
Yeah, they're paying us to be them locally.
To be them locally.
Yeah.
And that's,
I mean, that example of like an American brand is a really apt example because they're not going to have a guy or a company or a group of people locally here doing that role for them. It's very, you know, a company like Fender, big global company, they have a UK office as an example.
because they're massive.
But, you know, one of the companies I look after, a Buchler or ASM or, you know, those kind of American-facing companies, they don't have that kind of team. So they rely on someone like us to do that job for them.
So the main thing is also you're like providing local stock so that if dealers want to buy something, like I need some mini freaks, they get them from you in London, not from, you know, shipped from China or from America or something like that. The other thing is support. Like if a customer has a problem with a mini freak, they can talk to you, they can send it to you.
Yep, that's absolutely it. Yeah, so they're, you know, imagine that you want to buy a Hydrosynth and you're, let's say, one of our dealers, you've got to import that from China.
Yeah.
You've got to wait 6 to 8 weeks. You know, that's not a particularly good way to run a business.
Like a dealer isn't going to necessarily do that.
No.
Some dealers do deal direct with some brands.
Yeah,
but
that is a thing.
But the point is, so there's this thing called a distributor. And then a layer, what's the layer beyond that, as it were?
A layer beyond distribution.
I mean, I was going to say it's the manufacturer.
Yeah,
Just to lead you.
it's the brand itself. It's the brand itself. That's the next rung up from that, yeah.
So that's like, and I bring these three things up because these are sort of the three kind of sectors that you can get jobs in. And that's sort of the point of this thing is to talk about the fact that there are lots of different roles. I have had a career start. I started like in 2006. And I'll say my bit, and then you can say yours, basically, because I think it's quite similar.
It's very similar.
And so in 2006, basically, I was really into gear. I'd been like making music for like 6 or 7 years at that point. Loved gear, was like buying stuff from shops, blah, 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 blah. And was like, and I moved to London and was like, I need a job. What am I going to do? And so I decided I would try and get a job at the shop that I'd been into and was like really into, which was Turnkey. And Turnkey is a shop in which is now a Chipotle in central London. And I went down.
Slightly heartbreaking when I walked past it, I've got to be honest.
Oh, well, I'm not, because I can get a sweet burrito, mate. It's absolutely banging.
Yeah.
And it's I remember going down there, I sent in, I did a CV, and I put, here's all my gear interests. I have no real work experience in this industry. But the reality, let's just mention this reality of working in a shop is the kind of, I think represents the sort of entry point for a lot of people.
For a lot of people, yeah.
Because you can basically, and so I went in and they were advertising for sales positions. So you go in, I had a CV that said I was into gear. I talked about all the gear I was into, that I was very passionate, etc. And I tried and knew a fair bit about it. And that was enough for them to call me in. They're like, you have an aptitude. You've displayed it. You've said in the CV what it is that you're interested in. So I went in. I remember Steve Russell, it's big Australian man. Lovely man. Yeah. Steve interviewed me and was just sat on a sofa. It was a bit quite casual. He was like, all right, I can't really remember what he's asked, but it's not hard stuff because it's really, that's the point, is it's quite, the main thing is that you're passionate about gear and you have some interest.
That has always been my kind of base level for anyone, to suggest anyone getting into this industry is to have an interest. If you have an interest and can convey passion in any position, that is vitally, vitally important.
And it's really important to say it's not a false passion either. It's I have found everywhere you go, I want people to know who watch this that there's not, it's not like an industry of sort of shysters who hate gear. There are obviously some people who kind of hate the gear by now, but mostly people are just like you. They are just really passionate gear nerds who wanted to work in an industry that revolves around the world of the gear that they love. And so I am, so many people, all the people in there are passionate about gear. Most of, I would have to really think about someone who didn't make music, have some passion about it. So you can work alongside people really are like you and really are passionate and love gear. And so, long story short, I got a job at Turnkey and then I was there for 6 months, which made me a veteran.
Really?
We were joking yesterday. I was after 6 months, I felt an old hat. There were people who were come and gone. There were people who would come for day one, wouldn't be there by lunchtime. They'd just walked out.
Wow.
And it was pretty, I'm going to be real here. It was not a brilliant place to work in the sense that it was, there is a thing of very few people are professionally trained in terms of management. This industry does have a lot of people who are failed musicians and they are not managers and they have found themselves in managerial roles. And so one caveat I will say, truths be told, is that you will find that there are people who are not great managers. But to be fair, I would say that it is all kind of evened out in the sense that there's a sense of Dunkirk spirit when you're in a company that's, has a high turnover and is, isn't perfect.
Well, it's that sense of camaraderie as well. That's a really big thing. I mean, I will flip what you just said there about not great managers. I've never had that experience. I think I found myself quite lucky. So I never did Turnkey, and I've heard those stories. I've met the vets. I've met.
You weren't there, man.
I weren't there, man. And I've always been quite lucky in every position that I've worked in that I've had professional people that have got some level of training, whether that's, kind of business management or staff management or whatever that is.
Okay.
I've never had, like you said, a complete shyster.
To be fair, though, they've not been shysters, but it's just that thing of not.
It can happen,
I would also just very quickly say that the other thing that I found as a commonality is there's very little training. So there's very little sales training, which is the thing that really bugged me. I worked in multiple sales places and multiple distributors, but in the sales places, they just don't train you, so they don't help you to sell stuff properly. You just have to work that out yourself.
Yeah, I mean.
Which you can.
Trial by fire is a big thing.
Yeah.
It really is. It's here's how you put an order on, go sell.
It was.
The
training was an afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I have had sales training since.
Okay, good.
just so I can convincingly tell other people how to sell. But yeah, that is a big thing. There's a lot of, this is how you administrate.
Yeah.
We know that you know what a microphone does, or for example, off you go.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
There's
Talk
a
to
little bit of
someone.
that. Yeah.
So where did I'll very quickly sum up this. I worked at Turnkey. I was there 6 months, and then I just had enough because of I can't remember what was my specific beef. It was just very cutthroat. It was quite hard, and it was hard to make enough money basically because you were very much paid on commission. And I would just say like a word on the whole thing of sales, and like I know I would say what I'm about to say, but it's like, you know, I think there's a sort of a scathiness to sales, like you're a used car salesman type thing because you're like selling people things they don't need, you know. But the reality of what you're actually doing is you're answering the phone to someone who is calling because they want something. They actually phoning you. You don't phone them. They phone you saying, I want something. And your job is to find them the most appropriate thing for the budget that they have. Because if you don't, they'll return it and they won't come back. You can return things. So there's no incentive to oversell someone on something that is superfluous or incorrect for them. You've got to find the right, and that's the challenge is to really, what I enjoyed a lot about it was having great conversations with people and building rapport and chatting about like genuinely what they are into.
I love that when they feel like they've got a guy.
Yeah.
So you look after them once, and they've got the thing that they wanted, and it went well, and it was delivered on time, and the product was perfect, and they call you again. When they've got some more fun tickets, you're their guy. You're their guy. That was, I mean, we'll get on to kind of my background a little bit, but that was one of my favourite things in working in retail is that I had a black book of people that if I had something special, like a Moog vocoder, for example, very good example, I knew I had 10 people that I could email and say, I've got this weird thing, and they trusted me enough to know that it was for them.
You weren't just like, you knew it was.
I was like, okay, I'm not going to email him. He's got an original. I'm definitely going to email him. And it was that process was actually quite rewarding. It was actually one of my favorite things, but we'll talk about that.
All I will say for my part is that, and why I wanted to say this is because my next step was to move to a distributor. And the way that happened was because when I was at Turnkey, I was very passionate. I said yes to things like they were decommissioning the synth zone down. Like, do you remember there was this like vintage? And people watching this will remember there's like the vintage synth zone. I was there when they like decommissioned it, and I got to go through the gear and like use it. And I was like, mate, I want to do that. And because I said yes, because I was good, I hope good to work with, it meant that I think it was Matt Dobson is the name of the man who recommended me to Arbiter when they were looking for someone because I quit, and he was like, I'll mention it to Steve Parker, who now works for
Bitwig.
Bitwig, and other things himself. So it was through being passionate and positive. So as you said, like it's, you know, if you're passionate and then you can kind of get in, and it's passion and enthusiasm and being good to work with that propel you forward, and then it's very small. So that will propel you. Well, how did it happen?
So approximately 3 days after I finished school, I went, I'm not going to go to college or university. So I'm going to get a job. And I applied for an accounts job in the local newspaper that just said looking for an accounts payable. And I was like, okay, good with numbers. I'll go for that. Didn't say anything about music industry or anything.
Oh, is it not? It's just
no. Just accounts payable. Went for the interview, and it was Digital Village. And truth be told, I was not aware of Digital Village. So in my local area, we had shop, which is Romford. Well, it used to be Romford. Was a PMT. And a shop called Musicland, which is now a Yamaha shop. And I was not aware of Digital Village. Also applied for accounts job, went for the interview, didn't even have my GCSE results at this point, and just started working there. And I was told by the person that hired me, it was literally my passion for music and the fact that I played instruments. I've played bass since I was like 11 or 12. Always been into gear as a result of that. And it was literally my passion that won me that position.
Yeah.
So worked as an accountant, which I absolutely adored, by the way.
That's amazing.
People watching this, if they
I'm
know
not a
me,
mathsy person.
I am like Excel G. Like I am pretty tight on Excel. And did that for, I think it was for 4 years. And I don't know, because you were at Digital Village for a bit
I was.
as well. Were you there when they had the downstairs offices or when it was the...
We're upstairs.
Okay, so...
Big long room.
I was in the OG office. If anyone from Digital Village is... If anyone from Digital Village that worked downstairs knows, that office was packed and it was great. But I worked in accounts and behind me was the creme de la creme of pro audio sales team.
Right.
And these were all kind of ex-turnkey vets that were like at the top of their game. And I didn't really know anything about recording equipment. They were saying this word Mac. And I was like, what is this Mac that they speak of? I had no idea. I didn't know. I knew that you could record on a computer, but I had no idea about any of this. So over the course of those 4 years, I was just listening to these people selling gear on the phone.
Osmosis.
And I just like absorbed stuff. And like after about a year, I was like, I knew as much as they did. It was kind of like, oh, should I be listening? I don't know. But just absorbed what they were talking about. And it got to a point where I could hold conversation with them about gear. And I was like, why am I in accounts? Like, what am I doing this for? And then started to build a home studio, had like a little setup at home, recording guitar. I bought like a turntable. I had an Akai SG01V as my first synth, which was the little grey GM sound module.
I think I can see. It's like a desktop module.
Yeah, it was like a half rack,
like an LCD, like a red thing.
And I had a like a Yamaha education keyboard, like a PSR something. It was the only one with MIDI out, and that was my MIDI controller for years.
Did your music just sound like? Doot, 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 doot,
yeah, it was. It was like human music. Boop boop boop. It was
great.
But like I was. Recording and actually listened to some of that music recently that I did, and it's actually banging. So,
tends to be the case.
Yeah,
first music is amazing, and then it like all takes a nosedive.
Yeah. But like built a little studio, started really getting into stuff. Still playing bass, but started getting into electronics gear, building up the studio, blah blah blah. And where I was working in accounts payable, I was dealing with the suppliers a lot, so the distributors and the brands.
Yes.
So built up a rapport with them. And because I was good with numbers and gear, that caught the attention of the purchasing department. So then I was plucked out of accounts and dropped into the purchasing department. Now, the good thing about the purchasing department is you do have people like me coming in to sell you things that talk about gear and they talk about why it's special.
Like you now.
Yeah, me now. So, I had people like Chris Hawkins coming in and telling me why this product is good and telling me the features and benefits so I could understand who it was for.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, to a degree.
And blag it to a degree.
Blag it to a degree. Chris won't mind saying that. And because I understood the persona, because I was that person, I knew if that was BS or not. Yeah. So I could make a buying decision based on my skill set. So did that for years and years and years.
So just to sum up that job, it's basically you choose how much to accept from these people and say, this is a healthy amount of what we think we need, what we'll get through, etc.
Yeah. So that role at Digital Village, it was DV247 by that time, was really interesting because the purchasing department worked really closely with the marketing and the web team. Yeah. So there was parts of my job where I was getting exposed to marketing. So I'd make a buying decision by, I don't know, 1 billion Moog Voyagers.
Yeah,
don't do that, stupid.
You need 2 billion.
And then, I'd say to the web team, I've bought these, make sure they're published. Web team, publish it, marketing team, market it, here's the angle. Yeah. And I got exposed to that. And that's where I kind of built up some of my marketing chops, being exposed to that.
So you would, I guess the key is like myself, you were kind of saying yes to stuff, and being open to learn more. You accept that it's a learning position. You can come and absorb what you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with no plan as well. Like you weren't like, oh, I'm going to do this now. Like,
no. I mean, we're talking about how to get into the gear industry, and I've sort of like just swanned through it a little bit.
It kind of is like that.
But
I did not and think I would end up where I ended up.
Yeah, no, of course. No, I mean, no one ever does, but it was that passion for products and a little bit of business nous, and able to understand numbers and trends and that kind of stuff that really got me to. I ended up being the purchasing manager there for. It was 4 or 5 years.
How long did this? How long from entering the door to like purchasing manager? How long is this?
I was in accounts for 4 years.
Yeah.
Went into purchasing as an assistant, a purchasing manager after 2 years, and then I was at DV247 for a total of 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So that was like a large part of my career.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I say, exposed to different distributors, brands. When I left, I knew everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone knew me. Yeah. I knew everyone from, every single facet.
It is a very small industry.
Yeah, it's a very small industry.
Everyone knows you. That really does mean something.
Yeah.
It really does.
And I went from DV247 to a smaller kind of professional installer company called Casbar Systems.
Yeah.
And whilst I was there, built a website for them, built a retail platform, got the business up and running, did that for a year, decided it wasn't quite for me for various different things. But that was a very cool job because Gavin that ran that company, he was very proactive. He was driving around, going to see studios, building relationships, introducing me to his customers as well. And I got a sense of how to have a conducive relationship because by this point I hadn't done any sales.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And it was all about him being the guy to recommend things. And he would build studios for people, sell them gear, make recommendations, that kind of stuff. And that was really good for me. But as part of that role, I met a gentleman called Keith Malin.
Yeah.
Who runs a company, runs, still owns, anyway, a company called KMR Audio. And basically we used to...
They're like a high-end...
Yeah.
I bought my Schwayman S1 from KMR in 2005 from Keith directly.
Yeah.
I went in there... I remember he didn't make me a cup of tea. I was like, I would have liked one.
They got a really good coffee machine now, by the way.
Keith has since bought me a pint, so that's all is forgiven.
All is forgiven.
But it's like you buy high-end stuff.
Yeah, so
high-end.
Joined KMR, and at the time they did like a smattering of synthesizers. And I joined them as a synthesizer product specialist. So I, as part of my kind of gear journey, really got into synths. It was just like playing bass through loads of pedals, and I had a few friends that just went, "Use a synth, mate." Why are you doing this? Like you're just going, "Wow, you can do that with a synth, like easy." So got into synths kind of through being naive, really. And
what was your first? Oh, you had
I had an Akai SG01V.
Yeah.
But my first proper synth. My first proper synth was a Dave Smith Mofo keyboard.
Yeah.
Yellow as your t-shirt, which I had absolutely no idea how to use. The manual was pretty protracted on that thing.
Cool,
but I knew how to change presets and I knew where the cutoff was, and that was everything I needed.
That is like 95% of the job, to be fair.
That is 95% of Sims.
Yeah.
But I had that, loved it. Anyway, bought loads of Sims since then. Monotribe was my second Sim, still got it to this day. Modded to hell.
Such a good Sim.
Yeah, such a good Sim. It's going to go up in value now we've said that.
You reckon?
Yeah. No, please buy
Such
mine.
good
I have two. And joined KMR as a synthesizer
Synth specialist.
Synth specialist.
Were you really a synth specialist?
Yeah, no.
How much knowledge? How would you? Were you blagging at this point?
No. So if I class myself as a, let's just say, decent level of knowledge now, let's just pretend it's a 10.
Yeah.
It's not, but let's pretend it's a 10.
you,
At that point, I was a 6.
Yeah, okay.
So I used synths, I knew my way around them, but I wasn't quite in the persona, if you catch my drift, because I hadn't been selling synths, and I hadn't been coming to events like this one to talk about synths. I only knew what I knew, and YouTube didn't really exist at this point, which is why I didn't know how the Mofo worked. So joined KMR, and we sort of identified that people that are buying high-end studio equipment, which is their kind of mainstay, probably like synthesizers as well. There's definitely like a massive crossover there. So joined them, set up.
Can I just quickly ask, what is the difference between their hiring process and like DV? You know, like what would be? Because we've got two very different types of retailer.
Yeah, so DV, it was an interview in a room with a person, a manager of the accounts department, a lady called Steph. She's amazing. Gave me my start in the industry. Must reach out to her, actually. And with KMR, it was me calling Keith and Keith saying, come down for a chat. And we just went to the cafe over the road and had a coffee and had a chat.
That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Which is to say that Keith would be... Did he know you?
Yeah.
Because this is sort of... Because obviously at a place like that, it's very... it's very personal.
Yeah.
It's very small. It's Keith's baby.
Yeah.
And Keith is not going to want to hire someone that his main
trust
is, are you a dick?
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Well,
are you going to be good to work with?
The cool crossover there was... So KMR are a distributor retailer of sorts.
They do both.
They do both
We should say
things.
this is a bit like Signal Sounds.
Bit like Signal Sounds.
They also do distribute as well as retail
Yes,
some things.
yes.
There is a weird hybrid.
There is a weird hybrid, and KMR was definitely one of those weird hybrids. And I used to buy things from Keith when I was at Digital Village, at DV247. I was one of his customers. So he knew, that I could place orders and, all that kind of stuff. And we'd have chats on the phone, talk about gear a little bit, that kind of thing. And he knew of me, I knew of him. We met up a couple of times at events, a bit like this. Had beers, had chats, that kind of stuff.
So just being a familiar
just being
face,
personable.
Which is why, like, if you were starting out in the industry and your job was just being in sales, it's like making yourself known, being passionate.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't want to say it like you're doing it as a sort of phony act, because it's not.
It's really not. It's
just the reality is, if you do project genuine enthusiasm and you work in these positions where you meet distributors and retailers and other retailers, you will get known. In the UK, at least, I don't know how it is in the US. It's much physically larger. That will make a difference. The UK is physically much smaller. So that matters. Like, it means that if you come to a show like this, you could probably, you go to like Machina Brastronica, you'd meet everyone. Yeah. They're all here.
Yeah, you spend a day talking to...
So you could...
You're bumping in and talking into your mates. That's kind of how the UK industry is. It's very close-knit. Everyone knows everyone. And if there is a guy that is a bit of a dick, everyone knows that person is a bit of a...
Yeah.
So, being personable and being professional and being good... it goes a really, really long way. Yeah, it goes a really, really long way. So new Keith, went for the interview. We identified like a niche that, people that buy sugar gear will probably buy synths. And he sort of tasked me with growing the synth business, which I did over the course of, I think I was there for 5 years. I think it was 5.5 years, something like that. And took that synth business from nothing to definitely something. Had an absolutely fantastic time working with them. I mean, they
seem like a really fun.
They are
very fun people.
Such a good bunch of guys. Such a good bunch of guys. And thankfully, they're now one of my customers.
Yeah.
So I still get to talk to all of them all the time. Visit the store. That kind of thing. I see them at events, just like this one. But really enjoyed my time there. And one of the highlights for me is actually a trip that we went on to the Moog factory.
Oh my God.
In 2017.
That was really good,
yeah, that was,
And this is like, I can sort of like fast forwarding a little bit, like this idea of working at a distributor is like, a lot of these companies are quite small.
Yeah.
So like, as you found with DV, you could like actually move around and have different roles within the company. The idea of putting your hand up happens a lot, and I saw it happening. And in a distributor, it's just even smaller. So there is the potential to kind of move around. There are people who've worked in like the sales positions at like the answer basic phone job at a distributor, which I have done as well. I've seen them move to marketing and these sort of things. So these shifts happen. And
it's about having that good management structure that can identify quality.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And if you just, if you're passionate, it will get noticed. And and if you put your hand up and just say, I'm ask at interview at yearly appraisals and stuff, it gets noticed.
I want to do that. Yeah.
And the distributor basically, like the job that I did and the job you now do.
I do your old job.
Weirdly, this is like uber incestuous. You do my job now. I do your basically was marketing and like a sort of marketing kind of manager role.
Yeah.
But it is sort of, yours is maybe a bit more now a brand manager type job.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll talk about what I do on a day-to-day now.
What do you do now? What is a job you can have?
So my job title is brand manager, and the way I best describe the brand manager job is you are a conduit for the brand. So let's just pretend Arturia come to me and say we want to do this, and that involves
this.
Let's say we want to do. We've got a Polybrute 12 coming out.
Yeah.
We want to do a marketing campaign. We want to get influencers involved in the launch.
Yeah.
So that means they give that information to me. They give me a plan. I've then got to tell the purchasing team how many I want to order.
Yeah.
I've got to tell the marketing team, i.e. me, what I'm going to do.
Tell me.
What I'm going to do. Yeah. What are you going to do?
Yeah, you work out what you're going to do to tell people so people know it exists.
Yep. And then tell the sales team the features, the benefits.
Yes.
Identify the dealers.
So when you say sales team, you mean there's a couple of reps. So this idea of reps, these are people with like cars that drive around the country and actually go into the shop and like have a sit down meeting and say, we've got this thing called Polybrute 12 coming out. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be so great.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
Yeah, exactly that.
So, and your job is to inform them.
Yes.
So that they can be meaningful when they have those and actually tell people things that are meaningful.
Yeah.
That will convince them.
It's not just a picture of a keyboard.
Yeah.
And they go, this is great.
And it's not BS. It's like here are genuine reasons why this should sell.
Yeah.
And what you would need for your people in the shop to sell it.
Yeah. So part of that job is making sure that we've got the marketing materials for those dealers that do buy it, that they can promote it. And also, Polybrute 12 is a good example, working with dealers that can make videos, making sure that we book time with them to do said video as well. Or, we come to someone like you and say, hi, would you like to do a video on this?
Video about this?
Yeah, would you like an Polysynth to do video with? That kind of thing. So that's kind of a very top level of what a brand management thing does. Brand comes to me, I spider out the stuff and make sure it happens. Which is to say that
it's not one thing. It's like...
It's not one thing.
You also, I can interject and speak on your behalf, that you have to pick up a load of gear, pack it into a van, plan it all, get all the materials, buy loads of pot plants and things and tablecloths and like go to shows, set up shows, plan shows as well. That's another event.
Yeah, I mean, the other element to that kind of spidering out the information I mentioned is being a product specialist. I have to, because the nature of a distributor, the brand doesn't have a product specialist.
What is a product specialist?
Someone that knows what the thing does and can convincingly talk about it. I'm at a trade show. I need to show people how the public how the Polybrute 12 works, as an example. I need to be able to answer every single granular question on that thing. And that is one of my favorite parts of the job. Is like you get exposed to gear. You might learn from the person that developed said thing how it works.
That is, I want to just highlight that as like one of the coolest bits is when you're at a distributor, you are, you're interfacing with both with retailers, and so you get to talk to like dealers and jazz up products and like train them and educate, and then you get to also talk to the manufacturers. And so you will talk to people like Sebastian Rochard from Arturia, and like go to dinner. Like I remember a dinner in like Grenoble where I was sat next to Michel Moe-Coussa and like Frederick Brun from Arturia and Sebastian Rochard and like all the other product managers and stuff. So I was like Bob Moog's daughter, Frederick Brun. Like, I was chatting to Bob Moog's daughter about stuff that was in the Analog Days book, which I'd read. I was like, was Bob like this? And she was like, oh, when he got angry, he could get, when that red mist descended, like we knew about it. It was like, I'm like. And afterwards, I was like, I just had like dinner with Bob Moog's daughter. This is incredible. These are things that, like in the gear world, you get to meet those people because you're at a distributor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my favorite things about the role is being exposed to products before anyone else in the world has seen them.
Yeah, having input, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I will see things maybe 2 years before it's for general public consumption. There is product development cycles, there's beta testing, there's preset design, all these kind of other jobs that, we've not spoken about. And I might be shown something and they might say, what do you think? And I'll say, oh, have you thought about doing this and doing this and doing this? And occasionally I strike gold and there's a little nugget of an idea that makes its way.
I have one or two of these as well.
Yeah, same.
Like chord mode in the key step.
Yeah. There's like, you always find like little, and that's because we're users. Yeah. We know what people are going to be looking for. And that speaks to...
like we actually... I eat my own dog food. Is the industry term for it.
Yeah.
Like we eat dog. I eat the dog food.
Yeah.
I eat dog food for breakfast.
Yeah, it's great. It's the best. Yeah. I mean that is a really nice thing. I mean, you know, I won't name the products because I'm not sure that I can. NDAs. But yeah, you know, I've seen things 2 years before it's come out, played it, you know, make suggestions, ask questions, and it's all. That's really, really nice. It's nice to get a little bit. Look at the shiny before anyone else.
It's fascinating. Yeah, you have some input. It isn't always listen to.
No.
Rarely listen to, but you can. Like the other one I remember is when we went to Moog. Do you remember the DFAM?
Yeah. Well, that was actually going to be one of my favourite things. So I mentioned that we did that Moog trip.
This was where. Go on. Sorry.
So Alex very kindly invited me. Was I a big Moog dealer at the time? I think I was a big Moog dealer for KMR. Yeah. And I was asked by Alex if I would like to go to the Moog factory.
Would you like to come to Asheville?
Yeah, would you
like hang out in like beer capital, like amazing hippie beer town?
My God. Is it more breweries per capita than anywhere else in the world?
Yeah, it feels that way.
Definitely.
Like a brewery per person.
Yeah. Right. Ouchie liver.
8%.
So we went to Moog in 2017 to do something called Moog Pro training, which is like a training program where dealers from all over the world, you know, we had guys from Sweetwater, from Perfect Circuit. There was that guy from Brazil that wore a pocket operator around his neck, looked like a kind of synth Mr. T. It was absolutely lit. And we went to Moog and did training on products. They gave us a factory tour. We got to kind of sit down. We saw sit down and talk to the guys about ideas and had some absolutely fantastic product training from those guys. Yeah. And we saw something that we probably can't talk about. It does exist, but I think we both signed an NDA that probably means...
I can't remember what you're talking about. The main thing was the DFAM.
Yeah, so our shared claim to fame is that we asked Linda Lafferty if she could get us a DFAM out to play with, because it wasn't a production product. At the time, it was a Moogfest DIY special.
It was.
And we'd both seen videos and gone, that sounds absolutely amazing.
I remember seeing like a Facebook video and like replaying it about 15 times. Where I was like, what is that? Baddest ass sounding effing like Moog thing I have ever heard in my life. What is this?
So we very kindly asked Linda to get a DFAM, and she did.
Did it on the mezzanine.
And plugged it in directly into an SRM 450. And we just rinsed it for about an hour. Yeah. And we're both like, this is clearly...
So I remember there was Trent Thompson was there. It's like this wonderful tour man. Doesn't work for Moog anymore, but like... Trent was like, I remember going to Trent. I was like, always holding him by the lapels.
You
like,
must
Trent.
make this.
And I was working for the distributor for Moog, of course. So I was doing your job.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm at the distributor. I am telling you categorically that if you make enough of these, I will make sure we sell. Like, you will sell these. Yeah. You will sell these. You must make this a commercial product that can be sold at volume. Well, and I turned to you, I was like, Tom, how many would you order if we like got this in? You were like 40 or something or 50. I was like, which may or may not have been true.
I think I did buy that.
But like, the point being like that you have an opportunity to, and Trent later told me, he was like, man, you know, it did make a difference that you guys were crazy for this. And that's really important to hear, because that says to Moog, the English guys are going absolutely ape.
Well, one of the things that stuck with me from that particular experience is Dan Ward that we were with. He literally said, "I've got friends that have spent £7,000 on a modular system to make it sound like that."
It doesn't even sound that good.
Yeah, it doesn't even sound that good. So yeah, I mean that was.
And we should also say that's a way. And the main thing here is as well to say that. There's like a ladder here. You start in retail, you might move to distribution, and as you move to distribution, you have an opportunity to be known by the manufacturers. There is the possibility, and I do have a friend Andy Bensley, who works for Genelec, used to work for Source.
Yep.
And Andy was able to go from Source to Genelec and to move to a manufacturer. And so it's small. The industry is small, and being positive and passionate and making yourself known. And there were things like mad things at like Moog distributor meetings at NAM where they would like, the person from Moog would like point to me and would literally say like, Alex, you'll get this one. And I'm like, you know, and it's sort of gratifying and mildly embarrassing, but also like, I remember thinking in my head, I was like, shit, like they are noticing that I'm interested in this stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
that does feel really nice. Like we were talking about getting sneak peeks of products and being asked, what do you think? That is, it's like, oh, you actually care about what I think.
Which is to say that, because if they're looking for someone and they know you and they know you, they know about you, then it's just going to open that door, like unquestionably.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, to wrap it up, how to get a job in the gear industry: be passionate, be easy to deal with, don't be a douche.
Yeah.
And just be passionate about what the gear is the biggest thing. I always think that having product knowledge and being able to get into that persona, that user's persona, is a massive deal, because that will take you anywhere. In sales, I have a customer on the phone, ask me about a drum machine. I like that one. I know the features, the benefits. Okay, that's for them. That guy will come back, as we said, and you get that rapport. Or if you're in marketing, I know how to market that. I know the influencer that could do a good video on that. I know who to send that to at Sound on Sound to get the kind of best feedback, that kind of thing. And then also, as we were saying about the brands, if you've got product knowledge and you're nice and you make good suggestions, they will come to you for that. You know, it's that is fundamentally it. You know, be passionate, be enthusiastic, be easy to deal with. Don't always say yes to everything, because yeah.
But it seems important to say yes to something.
Yes.
Be willing to
be willing
to help out and be willing to like do different roles, because you might just discover that you actually really enjoy working in an aspect of the business.
And in the distribution job that I'm in now, that goes a long way. So, you know, for example, I've got a good rapport with a lot of our brands, and all these brands talk to each other. They might say, oh, we need a distributor in the UK. And they go, oh, we deal with that guy, and they're great.
Yeah.
And then you've got a new thing. You know, it's you've got a new brand to deal with, and then you just push forward with that. That is the thing. And I think you'd agree with that.
100%.
Yeah.
Just as like, you know, interpersonally, then intercompanyly,
yeah,
it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So it is kind of who you know, but that doesn't mean that the doors are shut.
The doors are definitely not shut.
Just
I mean,
be enthusiastic and passionate.
How many retailers are there in this country? How many brands? How many, you know, there's so many angles that you can come at this from. And yeah, just as long as you know how to conduct yourself, I think sky's the limit, really.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, thanks.